Oh, and good evening. It's March 25th, 2025, and we're continuing our discussion collection in this Outside the Class series. This series is from the Bible Project, and it covers the entire TaNaK, right? The Old Testament. On TheDustyFeet.com, in the Outside the Class section, those source videos, they're set up for your review. Because the intent of Outside the Class, you to listen to the in-class lecture first, right? Those source video playlists contain those lectures. But we try to keep these to about 15 minutes. Make them easy to catch up on. So we're on a quest, scroll by scroll, book by book, a journey through this collection, but with a fun and different twist on Outside the Class on the Dusty Feet. And of course, before we forget, if you do find these kinds of podcasts useful, then please subscribe. Those reminders, though, they just help you. But also, if you think these might be useful to others, that is when you click that like button, because that is how YouTube chooses to share these to more people if they wish. Remember, the videos we'll be discussing, they're just the beginning of a highly recommended learning series, and the entire series can be found on the Bible Project's website. Because we're going to ask many questions about all kinds of things. Answers? We'll see. Judges, Shoftim, Part 8. Yeah. Okay, so something I thought about as I looked back into the Judges scroll, because I wanted to look at it and I wanted to ask different questions. Because when I examined this, I started asking questions like, am I looking at things correctly? Am I glossing over things that I should have noticed for a long time? What I mean by that is it goes the way our social media screams at us today, right? The negative is what grabs our attention, not the positive. So maybe we get a bit of twisting of the story to give us what we want, and maybe not what the story was meant to give us. Because maybe based on where I'm looking, what should I be focused on? Am I focused on the sensational negative? Or am I learning from it on what not to do? Because in this scroll, we have some famous people we were going to talk about, right? Gideon, Samson. We've already seen that Gideon, maybe he's not the guy we've built up in ways that we'd like to skew the story. And we read the whole story and we find out that maybe he's not a guy we should be focusing on. As in, don't do what he did. And I have a feeling by the time we get to Samson, well, we're going to get that feeling, but maybe to put it in the common vernacular, we're going to get it on steroids. But what we might miss when we read these is that some of the stories, they're not sensational. They're not exciting. They're not full of action. And then maybe in our minds, we miss the names of some people. And maybe they're the real heroes of the scroll, right? The people who did their jobs. They have names. We don't know them off the top of our heads. I mean, last week we mentioned Tola and Jair, two men who judged. They didn't have these long, sensational stories attached. I mean, those stories are good if you're making a movie because they're full of action, adventure, less dubious behavior. But we miss some people who do their jobs, their tasks, their lives. They live it well. But we don't focus on their names. It's probably time for another study that we get to explore Gilead and the Gileadites, because they were part of a tribe. Some sources have it as half the tribe of Manasseh. But this was a large family within the tribe of Israel. And the fact that it's referred to in this story by the patriarch's name rather than the tribal name, that does make it a little interesting. But in this section of the Scroll of Judges, we also get a flip on one of the stories that we've been most recently attached to, right? It's interesting how the juxtaposition, the flip of this story has us. Maybe this guy will be on the side which we were thinking, right? this guy's going to be on the same side because of the previous story. But then we realize as we get into it, God has it the other way around. Because it's part of the scroll. It's so interesting to me that we're going to do a lot of actual reading of the scroll here. Because, well, I think the story's been told so well. And it's probably part of the scroll of Judges that you're not as familiar with. Because it's not about Gideon. It's not about Samson. It's about a judge, but his name is Jephthah. Remember, we closed the last episode with the header for this section, right? Further disobedience and oppression. I believe we're going to find out why as we proceed, right? Oh, and as we get further in the story, I think this becomes apparent as we go well beyond the scroll of Judges, right? We're going to understand what was not dealt with in the scroll of Joshua, in the beginning of the scroll of Judges. We didn't deal with certain people groups, practices. Because remember, we can't separate those because they determine who they were, right? You were called to this people group because you behaved a certain way. This wasn't a pledge of allegiance. It was how you acted. That included things like, in theirs, child sacrifice. Because remember, when we hear these things are essential. But these people groups, they were not dealt with. And the practices that they performed, they had bled over into the practices of the children of Israel because they had not heeded the word of God at the beginning. So now more is going to come back, maybe to bite them in the butt. Judges 10, verse 6. Then the sons of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord. They served the Baals and the Ashtaroth and the gods of Aram and the gods of Sidon, gods of Moab, the gods of the son of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines. And they forsook the Lord and did not serve him. And the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he sold them, God did, into the hands of the Philistines and into the hands of the sons of Ammon. And they afflicted and crushed the sons of Israel that year. And then for 18 years they afflicted all the sons of Israel who were beyond the Jordan in the Gilead, in the land of the Amorites. And the sons of Ammon crossed the Jordan to fight also against Judah and Benjamin and the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was greatly distressed. Then the sons of Israel cried out to the Lord and said, "We have sinned against you, for indeed we have forsaken our God and served the Baals." And the Lord said to the sons of Israel, "Did I not deliver you from the Egyptians and the Amorites and the sons of Ammon and the Philistines?" And then I stopped at this point in the story and I said, who is saying this to them? Think about it. I mean, who's physically saying it to them? I get it that the Lord said it, but are we supposed to understand that maybe inside the heads of the children of Israel, they had cried out to the Lord? Those that did they hear these words? Was there somebody else? Who was saying it? Does it matter? Should we care? Is it important? These are just questions that came to me as I looked at this scroll to ask questions. And I think this gives us more to talk amongst ourselves about later. Let's move on with the story. So also, when the Sidonians and the Amalekites and the Maonites oppressed you, you cried out to me, and I delivered you from their hands. Yet you have forsaken me and have served other gods. Therefore, I will no longer deliver you. Go, cry out to the gods which you've chosen. Let them deliver you in the time of your distress. And the sons of Israel said to the Lord, "We have sinned. Do whatever it seems good to you, only please deliver us this day." So they put away the foreign gods from among them, and they served the Lord, and he could bear the misery of Israel no longer. I wonder how long that took. Was it weeks? Was it months? Was it years? I highly doubt it was a moment, maybe even hours. We continue. Then the sons of Ammon were summoned, and they camped at Gilead. And the sons of Israel gathered together and camped in Mizpah. And the people, the leaders of Gilead, said to one another, "Who is the man who will begin begin to fight against the sons of Ammon. He will become the head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. Now Jephthah, the Gileadite, was a valiant warrior, but he was the son of a harlot. Gilead was the father of Jephthah. Right? Gilead's wife bore him sons. And when his wife's sons grew up, they drove Jephthah out, and they said to him, "You shall not have an inheritance in our father's house, for you are the son of another woman." So Jephthah fled from his brothers, lived in the land of Tob, and worthless fellows gathered themselves about Jephthah, and they went out with him. So here's that flip, that son of another mother, right? We have a different description of the group with just worthless fellows. Yet seemingly in this story, they volunteered to follow. In the other story we had a son of another mother, but his troop were paid reckless fellows. One could infer mercenaries, maybe. God does like to flip things. And it came about after a while that the sons of Ammon fought against Israel. And when the sons of Ammon fought against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to Jephthah from the land of Tob, and they said to Jephthah, "Come, be our chief, that we may fight against the sons of Ammon." Then Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "Did you not hate me and drive me from my father's house? So why have you come now to trouble me?" The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "For this reason we have now returned to you, that you may go with us, fight with the sons of Ammon, become head over all the inhabitants of Gilead." So Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "If you take me back to fight against the sons of Ammon, and the Lord gives them to me, will I become your head?" And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "The Lord is witness between us. Surely we will do as you have said." So then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead and the people, and he made them head. He made a chief over them. And then Jephthah spoke all his words before the Lord at Mizpah. This is what Jephthah says. "Now Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the sons of Ammon, saying, 'What is between you and me, that you've come to me to fight against my land?' And the kings of the son of Ammon said to the messengers of Jephthah, 'Because Israel took away my land when they came from Egypt, from the Ammon, as far as the Jabbok and the Jordan, therefore return them peaceably now.' But Jephthah sent messengers again to the king of the sons of Ammon, and they said to him, 'Thus says Jephthah, Israel did not take away the land of Moab, nor the land of the sons of Ammon. For when they came up from Egypt, and Israel went through the wilderness to the Red Sea and came to Kadesh, then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, Please, let us pass through your land. But the king of Edom would not listen. They also sent to the king of Moab, but he would not consent. So Israel remained at Kadesh. Then they went through the wilderness, around the land of Edom and the land of Moab, and they came to the east side of the land of Moab, and they camped beyond the Arnon. And they did not enter the territory of Moab, for Arnon was the border of Moab. And Israel sent messengers to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, the king of Heshbon, and Israel said to him, Please, let us pass through your land to our place. But Sihon did not trust Israel to pass through his territory. So Sihon gathered all his people, they camped at Jahaz, and they fought with Israel. The Lord, the God of Israel, gave Sihon and all of his people into the hand of Israel, and they defeated them. So Israel now possessed the land of the Amorites, the inhabitants of that country. So they possessed all the territory of the Amorites, from the Ammon as far as the Jabbok, and from the wilderness as far as the Jordan. Since now the Lord, the God of Israel, drove out the Amorites before his people with Israel, are you then to possess it? Do you not possess what Chemosh, your God, gives you to possess? So whatever the Lord our God has driven out before us, we will possess it. Now, are you any better than Balak the son of Ziphor, the king of Moab? Did he ever strive with Israel? Did he ever fight against them? While Israel lived in Heshbon and its villages, and in Aroer and its villages, and in all the cities that are on the banks of the Arnon, they were there for 300 years. Why did you not recover it within that time? I, therefore, have not sinned against you, but you are doing me wrong by making war against me. May the Lord be the judge. May it judge today between the sons of Israel and the sons of Ammon. But the king of the sons of Ammon, well, he disregarded the message which Jephthah had sent him. So Jephthah says, well, first of all, let's get the story straight. As in history, let's get it straight, let's get it clear. And now that we've cleared that up, now where do we go from here? So next week, we're going to get to see how this story plays out. And we're also going to see a tale of Jephthah's tragic vow. Because when we make a vow, we promise, right? Well, maybe we need to heed the words that were given to us a long time after this. Don't even make the vow. And this might be the reason why we take heed. God's going to let it play out. So thanks for with us tonight on another episode of Outside the Class with the Scroll of the Judges on the Dusty Feet.